Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. We're going with a different look. It's nighttime. It's late. We're all tired. This is a makeup lecture, and so in this session, we're going to go over some different role play scenarios, how we can use them in our classes, and how we can adapt them for our students. Some of them are a bit more mundane, and some of them are a bit more exciting as well. So, visuals aren't really important for this one, but we're going to do a lot of talking. A lot of talking. I say we, I mean I. So, I hope you're nice and comfortable. We're just going to have a good time, and let's get started. So, in our main lecture for this week, which I slowed down the speed to make it longer. I thought that was smart. It's a bit of fudging the numbers, so to speak. We talked about role playing in general and how it could be used. Now we're going to go over some more specific scenarios. Some are very generic and can be adapted. Some are more advanced and a bit more, some are a bit more mundane, and very practical. Some are unpractical, but very fun. So we'll see how it goes. The first one that we have, time to eat. Eating at a restaurant happens a lot. Most places you'll need to eat at a restaurant. So the goal of, if you're doing a restaurant role play, students are going to master and use the typical vocabulary and phrases used in a restaurant by understanding and responding appropriately to prompts. Some example sentences here. Our word bank. You're going to use food-related vocabulary, so you'll have a menu of some sort. Phrases like, "May I take your order?" "I would like..." "Check, please." "Will you be paying by cash or credit?" Those are different phrases, and of course we can subtract or add to them as needed by the conditions of the unit and by our students. If we look in a bit more detail, we can see how this can be used. So yes, in this role play, students are going to be using the knowledge of food vocabulary and coupling that with phrases and questions used at restaurants. For beginners, for young learners, keeping it simple can be easy. How can I help you? What would you like to drink? Vocabulary should be simple as well. Soup, ice cream. Keep it. We don't need goat cheese, for example, or Peruvian sun-dried tomatoes. Even though that's not very complex, it's quite long. So for more advanced students, you can have more detailed menus and more complex questions and answers. Before we do role plays in any lesson, any situation, the students will need to know what they're supposed to say, what words and phrases they'll be expected to use. So you'll need to pre-teach the more common phrases. Students are going to take turns who's going to be the server, the waiter, waitress, and the customer, the guest. Other ways you can help this: if you take times to make menus, students can design their own menus. You can make up short little templates, and they can write in the menu, the food, and draw little pictures. So the students get to practice some more vocabulary there as well. But also, if there's menus, that can also have some example sentences. So students who might forget, they can still read and practice and participate in the role play. Nice, easy breezy, lemon squeezy. Second scenario is taxi. Get a taxi, and you're going to practice direction words, polite requests. Those are all very important in giving oral instructions, giving verbal instructions, telling where for people to go. So direction words, very, very nice to practice your direction words. Kids always need practice: left, right, straight, back, go left, go right, go straight, things like that. Take the next left, take the next right, go down 2 blocks. This is kitty corner across, diagonal. So the words and phrases, yes, direction words, names of locations, places. So your bank, your restaurant, your movie theater, your park, your school, your shopping mall. You have the interruptive, where to, where do you want to go. Those are all perfectly good ways. So in this scenario, though, this might have happened to you. It's happened to me. It's a bit frustrating. The taxi driver doesn't know where to go. This happened to me in New York City, actually, Manhattan. For those of you who don't know, which I think is all of you, Manhattan's a very easy place to drive. Everything's just blocks. There's no curves. And everything goes up by numbers. So it's avenues and streets. Streets go east-west, avenues go north-south. That's it. It's really, really, really easy. And I had to tell this taxi driver where to go. I'd been there 2 days. I knew where to go. People. Anyways, this is just that you'll need to... students will need to go somewhere. There'll be, the taxi driver who doesn't know where to go. And the student, the passenger, will need to give directions on where to go. So this might be, they might need to have a slip of paper with their directions on it and need to say it. If you can, depends. If you have time and the space, this could be very fun to do where you do pretend taxis. And if you mark different parts in your classroom as different locations, and you're able to make it into a grid, so that students want to go from the bank to the restaurant, they need to say, go straight 3 blocks, then turn right. And the taxi driver then will walk together and follow directions. That's a possibility. If you have small groups with enough space, that could be a lot of fun. Our third scenario is a medical one. Is there a doctor in the house? So there's a doctor in the house, using medical words, vocabulary, body parts, physical ailments, sicknesses, injuries. Questions like, how are you feeling? Where does it hurt? And I have a, or what do you recommend? Those are all phrases that will have body parts, always nice to practice, and then what hurts and how does it hurt with physical ailments, sickness, and injury. Depending on the skill level, the maturity level, and your group, you might keep it simple. Cough, runny nose, cold, flu, or broken arm, high blood pressure, compound fracture, concussion, diarrhea. Though, depending on the vocabulary, you can add or you can simplify or complicate the vocabulary as much as you can. So anyways, students will be in 2 roles in this, nice, easy. Some students are going to be doctors and some are going to be patients. And we can also add nurses as well. And you'll perform the dialogue of somebody comes in with an injury, an ailment, and the nurse and the doctor will need to assign and treat the injury or sickness correctly. So this can be a game as well, as in if it's a broken arm, that's different than having a cough and different treatment. So the doctor can play the game of having to treat it correctly and get points or some reward as well. Fourth scenario is talking about the weather-related phrases, as well as verb tenses. So weather terms, temporal terms, time, today, yesterday, last night, next week, etc. Today we expect Not that we know will happen, what we think will happen. It's a prediction. Versus tomorrow will be rain or snow or wind. So we get the prediction versus expectation versus knowing what will happen. So nice to work out. Everywhere in the world, people talk about weather, and so in every textbook of English, there's something about the weather. People talk about the weather all the time. It's the easiest thing in the world to talk about. You're with somebody you don't know, easy to talk about the weather. Because everyone experiences it. You can't say, "Have you seen any movies?" What if they say no? You read any books? They say no. What are you going to talk about? But they do. Everybody experiences the weather. So it's nice to talk about. So, so role playing allows for that. All right. The next 3 situations are more complex, more gamified, much more difficult. These might take up an entire period. These might be multi-period lessons because they're very complicated. Those the previous 4, all pretty straight, simple, lickety split, no problem. You can do it. 20 minutes, bang, bang, boom, done. These are more comprehensive and interesting, I dare say. So this next one, International Space Station. So these are people playing astronauts. And you'll notice here, we have some very different roles. And everyone's going to be an astronaut because if you go into space, you're an astronaut. But there's different kinds of astronauts, and you can give them special roles. And so they're ad-libbing. The students will ad-lib as a character if they can do this. This requires creativity and a very firm grasp of English. So if you have a higher level of students' English ability, then you can do this. So the examples we have here, school teacher invited to give science lessons from space, wealthy space tourist like Richard Branson, or just somebody who won the lottery. So everybody has a character. They're not just playing man. They're playing rich man, or they're playing poor man, or they're playing science man. So everybody's in the space station, and you're floating around. You're pretending, of course, but you're floating in space. No microgravity situation. What if somebody brings sunflower seeds onto the space station, and the bag opens up? And this happened in The Simpsons, where Homer Simpson opens a bag of potato chips, and they get all over, and he has to float around. So what would the students do if that happens? Or what if somebody sees an alien out the window? How would the characters react? What if there's engine problems and people need to fix it? And so, what if somebody's murdered on a space station? So, in this kind of role playing, the students have a lot more autonomy, a lot more freedom to express themselves. So they're acting. So you might really need to build up to this of how they're going to act as their roles, and do they understand what their roles are? So props can help with this. TV remote controls used as communication devices, rulers, protractors, textbooks. Using this case, you'll need props to help the students get into the roles, into the mindsets. Some of the language you can use here. Critical language when you're complaining about what somebody did, or describing what the alien looks like, or giving instructions on what to do, or asking questions about what happened. This is a complex role play where, because it's so big and complex, it can do quite a lot. So depending on the situation, you can practice a lot of different language. And the nice thing about this is that you know, the weather or the taxi role playing is very situational for those particular language points. But like International Space Station, we can use it again and again. Not too much. We should never use it too much, but it's very flexible, very modular. And the students can have fun, you know, pretending to be in space. That's always fun. The sixth situation, the sixth roleplay scenario is Lost in the Catacombs of Paris. Catacombs are underground tunnels, and Paris is an older city, and as we can see on the screen, catacombs. Paris is an older city with a lot of history and a lot of dead bodies. So they buried lots of a lot of skeletons and organized things when they built the catacombs for sewage, for transportation, and for secrets. So they, they're pirates. So the catacombs are kind of a scary place. And so, but they are there. Before I forget. Here we are. So, Homer Simpson once went into space, and he had potato chips, and he opened them, and they all floated around, and he had to fix the problem by eating them. It was a wonderful time for everybody. But for this catacombs, this is the idea of getting lost in those catacombs with all those skeletons. And some of the different roles we can play, like ghost hunters, runaway criminals, sanitation workers, people who work in the sewers who help keep Paris running, or police officers. So the catacombs are cold, they're dark, they're wet, and they're a maze. They're very difficult to navigate. So some of the situations you can happen is where the lights go out, it's dark, or the catacomb starts flooding up with water, or sounds start happening in the deep, or monster or bugs. Lots of bugs come in and out everywhere. Yeah, they can make things. In this case, you could have props as well. So you have the students trying to get out of the situation. And so we have, the language being used here, directional language, turn left here, we should retrace our steps. That's very nice. Hypothetical language, and when you need to identify that sound, it could be rats, could be a sewer rat, or a sewer alligator. Those are real things in some places. Emotional language, talking about being scared, being brave. That's not, reassuring. Don't worry, we'll be fine. All those language can be used to help, in this interesting situation. And this one, the interrogation room. This is a small claustrophobia-inducing room with a table and 2 or 3 chairs. This is where criminals go, or people who are suspected of being criminals go, and the police talk to them. So we can have a good cop, bad cop, a guilty person, innocent witnesses. So you'll need a crime, hopefully something pretty fun, appropriate for students. So be aware of that. So you have people who could be the criminal, and the police need to figure out who it is. So we can say, the first possible scenario is a very old man who's very rich has been murdered, and the suspects are his young wife, his young second wife, his stepson, or his butler, his servant, or the city's bank has been robbed, and you have three suspects: a bank clerk, a nice grandmother, and an unemployed man. Or the border police have stopped a person trying to enter the country with an unusual story, trying to come into the country with an unusual story. So you'll need to, the police people will need to interview and try to figure out the story about this about what happened and who's the guilty person. So it's very much a game, and those being interviewed will need to, you give them a start for their characters, but they need to make up a lot. So this is very good for advanced students because it's a very creative exercise. It helps out a lot that students know what an interrogation is, what kind of interview it is, and also personality cards, so students know who they are and they can look at it and get some help about where were they, who did they talk to, who are they, and information to help them answer. And something that could be helpful, especially if you want to make this more into a game, like a red card or token that you can give the person who's guilty, who did it. And they'll know that they're guilty, but the police have to figure it out themselves. So they do this by asking questions, and leading questions especially. We see language used, leading questions. Why did you do this? Where were you at the time of the crime? Those questions, the answers are already assumed. Answering questions or avoiding answering. Denial language, saying, no, I didn't know, but no. Past tense practice, it's all very helpful there as well. So these are different scenarios that can help us have some fun with English and fun role playing, and especially these last three, students can have a lot of fun with these more complex, advanced role plays. So there is that. We'll have 2 more lectures next week as well. I hope everything's coming together. I fussed at you yesterday in yesterday's video, and so I think that was helpful because it got you started. I got groups started on the group feedback project, so that is nice, very nice indeed. All right. I'm going to stop here. I have another class coming up, a video class with grown-ups. Well, you're grown-ups too, but you know what I mean. I hope you have an excellent weekend. We're almost at the end of things. Thank you, and good night.